Welcome to Silver Echo 2025. My name is Carl Honoré, and I am going to be your host for this event. In this session, we will be taking a closer look at the evolving telecare landscape across Europe, with a special focus on the United Kingdom. We'll explore how the sector is navigating the analog to digital transformation, embedding proactive and preventative care, and influencing national policy through collaboration, quality standards, and best practice. I'm very lucky to be joined today by two wonderful guests, two panelists. Our first is Alison Scurfield. She is the Chief Executive of the TEC Services Association, the UK's industry body for technology-enabled care. The TSA is a not-for-profit organization at the forefront of digital transformation in health and social care. We are also joined by Maxine Potter, UK Director of Careium, Europe's leading provider of technology-enabled healthcare. Right, to begin with, I'd like to ask you both to tell us just a little bit more about your organizations, but also to inject maybe a personal note to tell us what it was that started your love affair, if that's the right term, with the telecare industry. Perhaps you'd like to start, Alison.
Okay. I'm Alison Scurfield. I am the Chief Exec, as we've just heard, from the industry body in the UK. We service around about 2 million vulnerable people across the whole of the UK, and we also have a partner organisation that drives standards. Now, when I talk about standards, I don't just talk about technical standards. I talk about that wraparound care and delivery in the community. We work a lot with our commissioners of services. We work a lot with our suppliers, and I see a lot of them in the room today who work internationally. And we work with systems out there in the community across health, housing, social care, and our voluntary sector. What keeps me here? How long have I been in the industry body? I've been here about 13 years. But before that, I was up north in England, in a place called Newcastle, where I led service. That was Telecare service. It had a wraparound response service in the community, 24 hours a day. But I also had responsibility for retirement living, so the housing element. That drove me. I loved that, delivering services in the community and making a real difference to people. Technology is fabulous. It's been here in an analog world for such a long time, and it's made a difference to people's lives. And what's really kept me in this industry is when my dad, many years ago, had dementia and Parkinson's, we serviced that wraparound care model in the community right until Dad died. Technology will never deliver personalised outcomes, but it will enable someone to remain at home or a place of their choosing. And once you're in the tech sector, whether it be telecare, telehealth, or digital health, it gets a hold of you with an ambition to really change people's lives and communities. So I have a personal ambition, I have a professional ambition, but the big ambition for me is technology-enabled care do allow people to live a glorious, ordinary lives in our communities and a place of their choosing.
Thank you. Maxine?
Hi, I'm Maxine Potter. I'm at the Careium UK. I guess for me, I came into Careium after being in quite a few corporate machines, where I was quite a small cog in those machines, and I didn't feel, I guess, fulfilled in what I was doing. So when the role came up at Careium, it was kind of two birds and one stone. So it was kind of like me thinking, well, actually, I can give something back. I can make a difference in people's lives. So I guess it sounds quite corny, but it has made such a massive impact in the role that I do. I actually enjoy going to work every day. I love the fact that we have got so much ability to enhance people's lives as much as possible. At Careium, it's important that, yes, we do fulfil the obligations of the customer, but at the same time, it's more than that. It's being able to have that front-to-end process of having care for our customers, whether that's they fall over, they press their alarm for emergency care, whether that's one of our mobile response teams going and helping somebody, whether it's one of our technicians, making sure that we've got all the right technical equipment. It's making sure that we're able to offer that complete front-to-end service that enables and enriches so many lives. So for me, I'm really happy to be working in this industry, and it's great because I get to work with Alison and Alison's team as well. So yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you both is the importance of that human touch, especially in a time when technology is raging all around us. Before we go deeper into that balance or that tension that sometimes exists, I wanted to ask you just a general question about the kinds of things that you're seeing both at this event and in the industry in general. I mean, Silver Echo 2025 is a cauldron of ideas and insights and inspiration and innovation. And we're only about halfway through the first day, and I've seen all kinds of extraordinary things. So far, I've seen a presentation for a special kind of mattress that creates a little waving massage that guards against bed sores. I've seen a presentation, thankfully without visuals, of a penis ring that measures nocturnal erections and helps boost sexual performance. So we've got everything from bed sores to bonking at Silver Echo 2025. It's all happening here. But my question to you guys is this. What is one development or breakthrough or piece of tech or innovation that you've encountered in the last few months that has just made you think, wow, this is so exciting. We're on the edge of something really thrilling here?
I think for me, it's AI is a lot to do with what we currently do and what we can do to enhance things further with people. And I think it also gives us that insight into everyone's day-to-day activity. So from a proactive preventative, we can start linking that to sensors so that we can check, for example, Mrs. Smith hasn't made a cup of tea that morning, or she hasn't got out of bed with no sensors she's passed. We can start having alarms and triggers set onto that, which enable us to reach out with some emergency care. So AI is very crucial, but it also has to work alongside some of the great technology that we're trying to, advance as an industry as well. So it's at the forefront, I think, at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I could walk around this hall and get lots of insights of technology, bits of kit, as I would call them. But personally, we have to think about the customer, the person that's going to draw on the care or support, their loved ones. What problem are you trying to solve for them? Because the technology is just the enabler. And I think sometimes we go to shiny kit, we can't embed it, it's not in a wraparound care service, and then we think, why didn't we get the impact? On my arm, I'm a diabetic, not a well-controlled diabetic. Now everybody has this Libra and other devices to monitor my condition all of the time. Does it connect to my care record? No. Does it connect to my social care if I need social care? No. So I would think the innovation is vast. It's, I hadn't heard about the penis thing, but hey-ho.
The night is young.
That's a new one we need to bring to the UK. But there's innovation for everything. For me, it's about how you apply it, how you work with the people who draw on care and support. But everything that you need, you've got to start from those people and change their lives. So my call back to every single supplier, innovator in this room, keep innovating, but don't innovate by yourself. Innovate with the people that you're going to make a difference for.
Yeah, there's that phrase, co-production, isn't there, that you build from the ground up using input from the people who will be using the final tech. Are you seeing exciting examples of that already? Have we got better at that?
Yeah,
are you doing that at Careium, for instance?
Definitely. I mean, we've done quite a lot of case studies where we've been able to monitor and measure what people actually want from their devices, so that we can have that complete understanding of what it is they actually want from their device.
How do you do that? Is that with written surveys, or are you measuring what they're actually doing with their behavior?
We go in, so we will actually go into a care centre, we'll have conversations with people, we'll get to understand exactly what their requirements are. And again, this is what's brought us to this complete AI, and like Alison says, that cannot replace the human element. And AI is a great tool to enable us to reach out to more people, but it should never ever be in place of people actually caring, looking after people, because the other thing you've got to consider is a lot of these people don't actually speak to people every day. So sometimes they press their alarm actually, not because they've got an emergency, but because they actually need to hear a human voice sometimes. So we've got to make sure we always consider that.
Yeah.
Co-production's a word back in the UK. It means lots of things. It means talking to people who are drawn on care support. It means co-producing with your commissioners who buy your services. It means talking to the loved ones and the carers, really getting to the root cause of the problem that you're trying to solve. But co-production and continual engaging with that individual is really important because their needs change. My needs today as a diabetic might be very different next week when I've had an episode. So working with individuals to make sure you're meeting their needs, not just giving them a widget and say use it, is co-producing with them about their needs and their escalation of needs and how you fulfill them to have a really happy life in the community. Co-production is not just about the ground and people, it's about our leaders, it's about our commissioners, who gives us the money to deliver these services. Co-production comes right from government, right through to your localities and right to the people that we're serving. In England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales, we're really driving this because it's really important that the human voice, no matter who they are, drives the innovation. And it's quite exciting, and I'm sure we're doing a lot of this in France. If we're not, TSA would love to talk to you about co-production and how we can learn from the French market in terms of moving these innovations forward.
I suppose the key part of that phrase, co-production, is the co, which suggests a two-way street, doesn't it? So on one hand, we remember that we must always listen to and consult the end user so we get a sense of what they actually need. But there's also a case where the end user maybe doesn't know what they need just yet. Henry T. Ford famously said when he talked about building the first cars on an assembly line, he said, if I had listened to what my customers wanted, I would have built a faster horse. So it's that kind of reminder that, yes, we need to be down in the trenches listening to what people think they need, but there's also the other part of the equation, which I suppose is the innovators, the designers who bring their own blue sky thinking. How do you see that dynamic playing out in the marketplace or in design labs and in conversations you have with your end users?
Don't design anything, designers, until you know what you're trying to solve here with the technology that you're designing. And I think go back to the root cause. For many years, I've been in this sector about 30 years now, and the technology will always be there. We'll always get the designers going out there and thinking this is the great new innovation. If it doesn't land in the people that it'll make a difference for, then you'll never scale it, you'll never get it to market. So for me, the innovation in the design isn't the problem. It's working with the people who are going to draw on that care and support in their networks. Or dare I say, the people who are going to buy this technology and commissioning, they've got to know the worth and the value and the problems this technology will solve. It's not the lack of innovation. You can see it in the room today. Even in the back in the day, in the old analog world, there was lots of innovation. It doesn't matter. But how we're only in England delivering it to 2 million people when it could be 22 million people. We don't have the culture. We haven't spoken the right message. We're not solving the right problem. So it's a difficult one to land when you haven't started at the root cause of the problem you're trying to solve.
Does that resonate with you, the getting to the root problem?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we find is there's an awful lot of bureaucracy in the way when it comes to these conversations. Yes, we can have them, and the TSA in the UK are enablers for us to be able to have those conversations, because when we're looking at governmental bodies, we're having to talk about things like budgets and how they spend their money, and we've got to make sure that we demonstrate to them that this is not just about the bottom line, it's also about making sure that we can save lives and give people the best life possible, which will also remove the strain upon our National Health Service, which enables, there to be a lot more investment in a lot of other areas. So it's a much bigger picture.
Is the bureaucracy a problem principally from the state side of the equation, or are you finding that also in the industry itself with regulations or too many layers of people, management and so on in companies? Is that...
No, I don't think we have layers in companies. I think it's because obviously budgets are very tight. We're going through quite a difficult time within the UK at the moment from a government perspective, and it's just trying to demonstrate and get those guys on board, which is something I'm sure Alison will talk a lot more about going forward in the session. But I think it's from a government perspective, it's about getting them to spend in the right areas and get them to understand the importance and relevance of this sector within the UK.
Yeah. Where do you think the UK is on that journey towards recognizing how important the sector is? We've got a relatively new government. Has that made a difference?
The government, earlier when we got our new government last year, there's 3 drivers in the UK. You've got 1, at-home provision in communities and neighbourhoods. That's absolutely key and relevant to everyone in this room and the whole UK market. The second is focus on prevention, not illness. We really focus on putting some technology in a service when someone has a problem. Let's get ahead of that so I can predict that I'm going to have a long, happy life as a diabetic. Yes, I use my Libra. What other interventions can I have? That's a big focus in the UK. Now, you're lucky in France because people tell me that you're not tackling the analog to digital shift. We're in our final year of the analog to digital shift in the UK, but it's backed by the government. So moving to digital has lots of risks. We need to really focus about resilience. That's what we do as an industry body. So we've got the drivers from government. It's the culture and change in your local authorities and the people who buy your systems in the communities. It's about not just reflecting 100% on filling those waiting lists or those demands or that the queues in the hospitals. It's about reflecting and taking 20% of your time to innovate new service models. So I think we are seeing a real shift. We have some integrated care boards, they're amalgamating together, and one of their big focus is creating neighbourhoods. Now what that means is that people work together about a person. They're not separated, they're not siloed. We're starting to look at how we can get the money to flow through the system. This is not a problem with IT. I would class it as being the plumbing. So AI, we all use it every day for efficiencies, our own personal use. We can use it in the work of tech-enabled care. But did we get the plumbing right? The answer's probably no. Did we get procurement right? The answer's probably no. And it's all the plumbing bits that allow us benefit realization. So making sure maximizing the benefits, not just the money. It's what difference does it make to a system? What difference does these technologies and solutions make to people? So there's lots of things that wrap around whether you've got a new innovation and your systems are coming along. But the biggest thing we don't get right is people, our workforce, our leaders, the culture that we need out there to make this happen. Now, if we can get the culture right, so that everyone sees the benefit of what we're trying to do, you'll get a faster pace, you'll grow at scale. But the culture in our workforce is one of the big drivers that we really need to work on in the UK. And I'd love to talk to anyone in the audience who are having the same problems in France.
When you talk about the culture holding back the UK, is that the culture of workplace culture across the board, or is that just in this particular sector?
Across the board, we have got challenges in our healthcare system. We've got ambulance and the winter pressures. We've got, the front door to our hospitals jam-packed with people. We've got people in beds that shouldn't be there. The system, whilst in the UK we have a wonderful NHS, it's culture across the whole piece. If we're going to enable care, healthcare by technology, as professionals, as caregivers, we need to think about it through a different lens. That this is not taking away your job, it's enhancing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowing you to do your job better and create a wonderful life for those people in our communities. So the culture element in the workforce and how we train our staff, our leaders need to change. Our leaders need to think about innovation, but scalable innovation and change. This is transformation that we're trying to deal with here, which is a culture thing. It's about changing the leaders of the future.
And doesn't ever happen overnight, sadly.
Never.
Maxine, now Careium has been on the leading edge of the transition in the UK from analog to digital and so on. I wonder if you could walk us through a little bit how that journey has unfolded for you and maybe some of the key lessons that you've taken out of it this far?
I think for A to D, it's been quite an experience. I think people kind of didn't believe it was actually finally going to happen. So the biggest thing I think we've taken away from it is to collaborate and make sure that everybody's aware. Lots of really good, insightful communication to everybody so people understand what it actually means. Partnering with so we partnered with BT, we've partnered with our CSL, our SIM card providers, just to do testing to make sure that when the switch happens, there isn't any bounce back or any problems that are sort of created from the back of that. Unfortunately, these things do happen. But I think from an A to D perspective, what I would say is plan a bit more. It's quite a tough time.
Yeah. What would you say to any company that was grappling with this now? It feels like collaboration and partnerships is maybe a way to break through the logjam sometimes, is it? I
think definitely so. I think the collaboration has been so crucial to us driving forward what we have. Making sure that, you know, all of our commercial team were fully versed so that we could have those conversations with our customers to make sure they had all the right information, being able to have those difficult conversations as well with regards to A to D, because it's not straightforward. It is, you know, there's a lot involved in it. And as I say, I think because it had gone on for so long, no one was kind of believing that we were actually going into that time. But luckily, we've done a lot of work with our partners and communicated quite well.
Well, you mentioned that partnership with BT. I mean, it seems pretty clear that although competition drives innovation and moving things forward, the world is so complex now that we also have to have the other side of the equation, which is collaborations and partnerships and so on. So do you see Careium going further down that road? Do you have other partnerships you would want to tell us about or maybe or hint at?
Yeah, definitely. I think collaboration in the tech industry is key to drive it forward. I think there's more than enough room for everybody, and we've got to focus on our customers first and foremost. And I think the more we can collaborate together, the more we can drive forward all of these great elements and ideas that we all have together. So collaboration for me is really key, and it's something I want to do going forward.
Collaboration is often easier within one country. Are you finding that the collaboration is remaining within a walled garden that is the UK, or are you forging relationships beyond the UK? Is this something, perhaps Alison, you might want to weigh in as well on the kind of what other companies are doing?
So, well, we have obviously in Europe, so we have an office in Sweden, which is our HQ. We have Norway, we have the Netherlands, and obviously we have France as well. So we have those managing directors that are managing those regions, like I do, will have those relationships. There are times when we can see a benefit to sort of linking that up with each other. But in the UK, we are involved in partnerships to drive change. Yes, that could be a competitor, as we would call them.
Collaboration and partnerships has to be the focus for everyone. I think I feel quite proud in the UK. When I look across internationally, there is no TSA industry body to really drive and support to bring this community together. I'm really proud of what I would call manufacturers and suppliers in the UK. It's took us a long time to realise that this is a big pie. It can grow together, but you're only going to grow this together if you work together. And I think there's lots of learning. I was across in Philadelphia in America a few weeks ago, and what we realized there was different markets has the same challenges. They all have workforce shortages. They all have culture. Interoperability and integration feels like a word we've used for a long time, but together we've never tackled it. Is that the case in France? Is that the case that we can come collectively together? And I'm happy from TSA to lead some of that so we can start to do things for the greater good, for the wider sector internationally, because these problems don't change. They have little variances in the different countries, but you'll tend to have the same drivers of change. Quality standards. You have technical standards, brilliant. But you don't have how you apply your standards in a system. How do you deliver it in the same way? So all of these things can be worked on once together, instead of each country, each region, trying to do interoperability alone, trying to do workforce development and culture alone. I would call out to everybody in France, if there's an appetite here to work together, let's do it. Who would drive this in France? For who would be that lead organisation? So we can start to learn from the UK and explore that partnership approach. It's time. It is at the tipping point of growing this market hugely and making a real difference to people's lives. But without the partnerships and the collaboration, not just in your own country, then we can go much further, much faster at pace.
No one country and no one company can do it all, is
No,
the bottom line
definitely
here. Coming back to you, Maxine, I was wondering if you might be able to share perhaps one example of how the shift to digital infrastructure has changed the way that Careium designs and delivers technology. Is there anything that goes on just in the day-to-day that give people a sense of when people come into the office or whether they're working, just one little change that we could create a picture?
I think it's made us focus more on the future. I think it's made us think a lot more about what more can we do. You know, what other things can we do from a technology perspective? How can we make things easier for our customers? What can we do that would be more beneficial? But always having in the back of your mind, we don't want to take away the humanity within there as well. So we're looking at lots of different sort of new products, new innovations, how to get us to being at the forefront to obviously help and support across Europe. That's not just in the UK. Mm-hmm. I think the other side of it as well is we are kind of looking at going back slightly into from a grassroots perspective. Sort of next year we're looking at a homelessness function, so that we'll have a homelessness line. Wow. We'll start utilising that, starting off small in our local area and then looking to pan out, because we've realised that that's a major issue for us. But the actual product can only take us so far. We've still got to have that humanity, and I think that's touch. What we've got to not forget, really. Yeah.
There's a lot of ageism in our culture, a lot of jumping to conclusions about what people of different ages are capable of doing or wanting to do. I think for the longest time there's been a notion floating around that older people can't handle tech, or they don't want tech. How do you read that? And is one would assume that's changing, because every year a new cohort comes up who've had more technology, spent more time looking at screens. So are you noticing more ease, more willingness to talk to you about what people are looking for, more willingness to try the gadgets and the Telecare stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we're looking at making sure, what the feedback that we've had is that our customers, they don't want to have a clunky device that says, look, I feel like I'm getting older. They don't want that. So there's a lot of innovation at the moment, and there's a couple of stands here today that demonstrate this. Like a smartwatch where everybody's wearing a smartwatch. It's not just an elderly thing that people are wearing smartwatches. So it's trying to have that innovation so that people don't feel like they've got kind of something flashing on the head that say, I'm getting old. They don't want that. People want to be able to, sort of have not have a personal, have something that's not identifiable.
That's not a stigma of some kind. Yeah.
I think personalisation, what do we really mean about that? How would you personalise someone's care? You want to meet their needs, you want to mitigate risk, But more importantly, you want to play back to their wants and how they want to live their life. That's not just about older people. That's about all walks of life, any disability, learning disabilities, mental health. If you start with how they want to live their life, there may be a technology solution that would aid them at that point of their life, but there might not. And it might be something very different. And I think back in the day, if I remember 20, 30 years ago, we used to have a box of widgets. And the techies standing here will remember, you used to open the box and say, which one? This one, this one, this one, this one. They didn't have a clue because we never focused on what that was going to achieve. I think we've learned and we've grown up that that's the not, this is, it's, you know, it's not the starting point of the conversation. When I retire, what will I want someone to come and say? You're diabetic, you have an underactive thyroid, oh, holy moly, you've just got high blood pressure. And it goes on. I would want them to say, how can I live a good life? I wouldn't want them coming with a whole barrage of different technologies than the one we talked about earlier, because maybe that's not what I want. So it's all about how do I want to live my life as I age? And I think if we can root it back in that, and then this technology will do this. But as your escalation of need changes, and it does, we have to go back to personalization and always be there, and you have to reflect on that person's need. You don't predict what you think they need, and you don't predict what you think they want. You've got to ask them, how do you want to live your life? And if we do that, technology will scale. It will scale because you'll be embedding it into a personalized approach to deliver really good outcomes for that individual.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, if that's the right expression, artificial intelligence, AI. We've kind of touched a little bit on it. Some people say it is going to be the greatest panacea of all time. Others, it's Armageddon. Many others say it's somewhere in between. Can I ask you both to weigh in on the great AI debate in connection to the telecare industry? Do you feel, first of all, what's your gut telling you about what it's going to do for us? And then secondly, more practically, how are you using it or seeing people using it in the sector to reduce risks, to maybe improve service outcomes and human contact and so on? So first, a kind of gut view of AI generally on a macro level, then a bit more of a micro take on your own experience of how you see it playing out in the sector.
I think we've got to be careful. I think AI is good for what it is. I think it's good for if we want to remind somebody of their medication needs to be taken. I think it's good to remind people to test their alarms. I don't think it should ever replace a person. I would not like to see somebody pressing an alarm because they're having an emergency and something AI answers that call. I would not like to see that. But I do think it can enhance elements of what we do. And I think from our perspective, that's how we've used it. We've used it to have it for learnings, understanding, you know, what one particular person has, whether it's an elderly, whether it's vulnerable, what's going on in their lives. Can we pick up anything from that? And again, this feeds into proactive, preventative. We shouldn't replace people with AI. We should enhance what we've got. But I think it's there as a tool to help us learn as opposed to for it to do the work for us.
Mm-hmm. Just before you do that, I just want to pull in a little thread there. It sometimes seems to me that we're not really sure exactly how much people are going to be at ease and how good it is for them to be dealing with AI. We're already starting to see many, many people forming, relationships in inverted commas with AI. And I remember visiting a care home in the Netherlands where they had started introducing small robots that had sort of artificial intelligence. And they found that the residents were more open. They talked more about their personal problems. They shared stories more liberally with the robots than they did with their own families. So again, it sort of maybe challenges some of the narratives that we have in our heads about where the human contact ends and how those two, I don't have the answer. I think it's a very complicated Venn diagram, but it's just something to maybe bear in mind that we don't quite know yet.
I think articulating what we think AI is. Okay, AI is a word, we use it for minutes, we use it for different things. In COVID, back in the UK, AI and chatbots we use for our shielding people. The people that we couldn't get contact with, the people that we didn't know. There was regions in the UK that used chatbots and they serviced 100% of their community. Yet others didn't, because they weren't using tools to get to the right people at the right time. So if you're using for the right purpose, if you're using AI to solve a problem, it is fantastic. We're seeing AI within peripherals. We're seeing AI in connected care, predictive and preventative technologies. But back to safety and risk. If you put a technology, an analog technology, a digital technology, a piece of AI, and you're not embedding it and installing it and de-risking something happening, then you'll get the same issues. So I think we just need to be really mindful before we run off and use lots of AI. We have to go back to the safety and balance the risk. We need proper guidance out there about how people are using AI. But back to personalization. Doesn't matter what bit of widget we're using and how we're using. Is it solving a problem for that the person that you're serving? As a diabetic, is it solving my problem? If I want my consultant to know my readings from this widget I've got here, is it or not? And I think we come from the wrong place. AI will change our lives in the business and TSA. We are consumed with minutes and agendas and everything we do. Yes, of course, go and use AI. Don't be guaranteed by the stuff that comes out of it, because like we've heard from Maxine, it will never, ever replace the individual person. So just be cautious and don't let's look, because AI is shiny kit, and be really careful about what we're doing when we're providing things for the end service user, where potentially these are vulnerable people and there is risk there.
As Maxine, as you've moved closer or further down the track towards digitalization and so on, have you introduced at Careium any specific breakers in the system to ensure that safety, quality, the human touch are all preserved, or is it just kind of general ideas in the company culture? Have you actually got levers that get pulled at certain points in design when you think, okay, hang on a minute here, we need to be sure that we're doing the right thing?
Yeah, so with AI, we use AI for what I've described. We use it for telling somebody that they need to take their prescription. We're using it for someone to test their alarm. We still have everything in place where we manage our emergency alarms in exactly the same way. We look at AI in a way of supporting us from a data perspective, but there beats nothing more than being able to train lots of people that can manage our emergency ARC centre. The AI is there as a backup to do the things that aren't classed as an emergency. I would never change AI for an emergency operator, ever.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Well, we're getting towards the end, and I just wanted to ask you one, not rapid fire question, but just one sort of question looking ahead. Maybe start with you, Alison. Is there one, if you could remove one barrier, one single barrier to accelerating this move that we're all talking about, this technological revolution, moving in the right direction, what's the one thing, if you could, rub your genie lamp and have it removed from the path in front of you, what would you remove?
So, in the UK, we talk a lot about proactive preventative services. To be able to share data and insights, we've got to have open source platforms, we've got to have integration, we've got to have interoperability. This is a word that's been used in this sector for many, many, many years. And if there was one thing I could change across the globe, so everybody could see my data when they wanted to see it, I would say, let's get an international interoperability standard that we all comply to. And with the standards in tech quality will endorse that we do it. Now, the UK are well on the way. We've got our government driving a national interoperability standard. I'm meeting with all the senior CEOs in a few weeks to go, how do we drive that in the UK? That's not just a UK problem. That's a problem that we all need to solve. So if I could say one big lever for us all to work Tunstall in France, Tunstall in Timbuktu, Careium in France, or wherever, let's get this interoperability world solved, because what it means really is seamless services. Make sure data and insights flow through this system to improve my life. So that's my call to the sector.
Right. Maxine, what would you bring in from your genie's lamp?
I think mine would be to have everybody that needed the care to be able to live at home, be independent as long as possible, that needed it, got it. I think it would be nice for everyone to have that option and opportunity. I think that's kind of linking into what Alison said, really, is, you know, making the inoperability and making sure that everybody can have the right equipment for their own requirements is something that needs a lot more focus.
And then a final question before we wrap up. Again, to both of you, where do you see just to get maybe one example, the greatest opportunity in the future for technology-enabled care? Is there one particular strand or dimension or?
I think the biggest opportunity for technology-enabled care as we create neighbourhoods and communities is, don't know what your landscape of your end service users is in France, but 2 million people, it's been static for so long. My big ambition would be we should be looking at 20 million people in the UK. And if I could dial this and we got all the things right, like the enablers, integration, people, culture, workforce, commissioning, all those enablers right, we need to touch, like Maxine said, and deliver to services to those 20 million people. And we've got an ambition in our business plan to 2030. Come on, let's smash this sector and make sure that everyone who would need this technology and services can draw on that offer, and make sure we get everyone in that community is able to access it.
Thank you. Maxine? The same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same. Right. Well, thank you both very much for a very lively and insightful discussion. It's clear that the move towards more connected, proactive care is well underway, driven by the things we talked about: collaboration, partnership, innovation, and a shared commitment to helping people and communities thrive. So I would like you all to join me in thanking our guests and joining us for this Silver Echo 2025 panel. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation on the future of healthcare. Thank you very much.